We agreed that we govern our lives, our decision-making on balance of probability.
Yeah.
When I ask you the question, are the words that you're speaking are words that you're choosing?
In other words, that way.
Right, which means on balance of probability, that is the more likely concept.
No, because guess
that
what?
But Tony.
No, it doesn't.
With all due respect, Tony, often the first thing that comes out of our mouth in relation to a particular question is what we truly believe, especially when we don't give ourselves too much time to analyze the question.
You do know that what you're discussing now, I've already been grappling with this for about 40 years.
Well, don't grapple.
No, you need to grapple with it.
Just turn to God and all your grappling will end.
I think grappling, that's why it's called jihad, isn't it? It's supposed to be a struggle.
Jihad is not supposed to be an endless grappling of understand or accepting the truth.
No, because I'm aiming for, I want, like you want, absolute morality. I'm hoping it's in there to be found.
What you're putting on the boil is, what you're keeping on the boil is, I can't think. I'm just experiencing thought, but I can't think. Or I can think, and I can follow a train of thought, and I can control my train of thought. So you have to, in your experience as you are, you know that you exist.
I know I exist.
Okay. How do you know that?
Because it's a priori, pre-intellectually unavoidable. It's even deeper than that. I think it's I feel, therefore I am. It's even better than I think, therefore I am. And as I've said to Sabur and God knows who else, I can't help noticing that the name of God means I am, therefore I am. I think God got it just right. Okay, when God went I am that I am, I think he absolutely nailed the core accent. Okay,
now you're quoting God.
Yeah. Which is why I'm not just an atheist. So there's a lot going on in religion.
There's too much going on.
There's too much going on in religion for it all to be nonsense. Okay.
Tony, do you get gain?
So do you think you can think, or you don't think you can think?
I think the honest answer is I don't know if I'm an epiphenomenon or if I'm an agent, but I have to grapple with
Tony, do you think this conversation we're having is just a domino effect from the beginning of the universe? Or is it something more, let's say, more meaningful than that?
I think there's about a 30% chance it's a domino effect. I think there's a 50%.
And a 70% chance that it's not?
Strangely enough, no, because I think there's a 50% chance we simply aren't understanding the question, that our brains we fundamentally misunderstood how to frame the question itself, and that it's beyond our current assumptions, that we've got to re-question something behind us in an assumption that we've made.
That's not what we're asking.
Sorry.
Well, I think it may not be that we're in a deterministic or non-deterministic universe. I think the question itself may be a limitation of our thinking.
That's not what we're asking.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Do you think that you can think, or do you think you can't think?
I experience that I think, therefore I can think. The question is, how should I interpret what that means? Is it free choice, or is it
So let me add on to that. So are you able to go through?
I have to keep correcting you guys because you keep moving around. Let's just move over here.
Just make sure the peanuts stay in the sand.
Yeah, we're covering all the deep stuff. We're bouncing around.
The reason I'm asking that
we've now elevated you to prime position.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So the reason I'm asking that question is you started off having an epistemic hierarchy.
Yeah.
That you're using to learn about things.
Yeah.
Whether that's yourself, how to be in the world, whatever that might be, morality, ethics. But you're also simultaneously holding a position that you're not sure actually if you can think.
Yeah, my epistemic hierarchy tells me right now I don't know, and that's the truth, and I should embrace that truth, keep searching, and weigh the probabilities, as you've said.
What don't you know that you can't? If you can think or not?
I can't be hugely certain that I'm not in a deterministic universe. But on the other hand, I can't assert that I definitely am. I increasingly suspect I may be a pan-psychic universe, which is that consciousness is a property of matter. And I'm starting to become more interested in analytical idealism, which asserts that actually there is no matter, there is only consciousness, and consciousness creates matter as a boundary condition to mediate itself to itself. Both panpsychism and analytical idealism sound intuitively crazy, I agree with you. However, I can't help but notice that all of the options seem crazy, and if I'm looking for self-consistency, curiously enough, they do create self-consistent models once you can get over the crazy gut punch of how crazy they sound.
So the consistent model is the dualistic model where you have neurological processes that are necessary for. So it's just like you need a car to work well for the driver to drive it well. If you remove the wheel from the car will run, but not very well, but the driver is intact. So so this is why if we damage a human being's brain, you can see that there's a lack of function, but that doesn't mean that the actual consciousness is affected, the soul itself.
It's a good metaphor.
Absolutely,
I like your metaphor.
Absolutely.
So now, give a counter argument to your metaphor.
Before you do, then explain it. So the sensible position is that we have an aspect of us, the soul, that thing which is metaphysical, not physical, that is not bound by the laws of nature, and i.e. is not the sodium atoms and how they interact, or whatever particle we're talking about that can bring about something in our minds, isn't controlling that, but that is controlling our thought processes.
I hope so.
Yeah, and that will give us the ability. This is the consistency. It will give us the ability to think. It will give us the ability to work out what we're doing here. I think, therefore I am, or I feel, therefore I am, and then work out what am I doing here? Where am I going? How did I get here? That existential questions, and then we can get to the point of, okay, I've established that this can't just be one big accident. I don't know, we haven't got there. I'm just talking about the process. And then, therefore, this is a deliberate event. And the only way I'm going to know my purpose is the same way that you now know how the car works, but when you had never seen a wheel and a window and a door, you didn't know what to do with the car. Now, the creator who made you can tell you what you're here for. And then you follow that guidance to live in the world. And that's what Islam, I would say, does, but religion in general is what it's trying to do. Take the information about your reasons for being here and provide them to you from the only source that can give you that information. Your own hermeneutical approach is going to work in the sense that you're fumbling around in the dark without knowing really what you're doing, with the same model as the car. In that you've never seen the wheel, you've never seen the window, you've never seen the doors, and you're just going to smash the window and think it's a shelter and stay there over winter and not use it for its purpose, although it's functional. If that makes sense.
Everything you said, look, I hope the model you're presenting is the one, or close to being the one. I really do. It would be the ideal. I'm just trying to be honest, because I'm also taught by all the religions that you should be brutally honest with yourself and that there's virtue in this, and to value self-consistency. And in the interest of doing that, I can't help. I like your car analogy, and I view something similar, which is that if you damage the mechanism of the neurology, it doesn't follow that the neurology has to cause consciousness. It can be more like, if you cut the electric wire, you might think that you cut the electricity itself, but you haven't. You just cut the medium through which the electricity travels. So in that metaphor, electricity would be consciousness or the soul. Neurology would be the wire you cut. I like that metaphor. Now I have to play my hard argument to the metaphor I like. My hard argument is my own personal experience of what I consider to be personal to me, my sense of humour, my mood, my emotions and my feelings. I can't help but notice how profoundly they can be affected by mere material objects. How much they can be affected by simple material objects, dead matter. When you introduce it into my system at neurological level, it has horribly profound effects on my internal experience of who I am. Most obvious example being under anesthetic. When you're completely knocked out, any illusion as to who I am or that my power or my boundary conditions or identity can simply be sunk, it seems, by putting chemicals into my body neurologically, I know, you guys don't do alcohol. I know from taking drugs, which I have done occasionally in alcohol, how much those do alter your moods. And I sometimes wonder if the Muslim community, because it's very diligent in not going near drugs, which I think basically is a very good thing, maybe gets underexposed to opportunities to see how much your mind can deceive you. Whereas the decadent West, for all of its decadence, and I think you have an edge on this, we are very regularly exposed to the humbling experience of how much our mind is a slave to the chemicals and the materials. And I'd rather not run from that harsh truth. I'd rather integrate it into a still optimistic moral framework where I still have Fitrah and I still have a moral purpose.
Tell you, we're having a conversation. Are you choosing the words that you're speaking?
Just give me two examples, just on this.
It feels like I am.
Yes.
But I might not be.
So that's the point, Tony. That is the point. The point is that when you say there are four options, and you're going for dualism, I think you said, right? Yet in reality, when I ask you the question, are you choosing the words that you're speaking?
It feels that way.
Right. But when it feels that way, that actually becomes the option that you're more convinced by.
No, because I'm having to synthesize my gut instinct with my epistemic hierarchy.
See, Tony, the point here is this. Had you not felt that way, the first thing that you would have said to me is, I don't know if the words that I'm saying actually are coming from me. But you didn't say that. You intuitively, immediately said, yeah, it feels that way. And what Imran is simply saying to you is,
don't fight your Fitrah.
Don't fight that.
But my life is full of experiences.
Don't fight that.
Two examples. That's what I give two examples.
I don't want to damage it by treating it too casually.
No, it's not
and always
casual.
going, hey, my Fitrah will get me off. I want to be diligent.
We're not saying that.
Okay? Do you know
Sorry,
the number of times that my gut and my instinct has deceived me? We have to know about ourselves that the human mind is a very clouded and self-deceiving thing. Human beings are self-deceiving animals. You might not like the term animal, but for now, yeah? And religion, again, bravo religion, is so aware about it. It's constantly confronting human beings by going, your vision is clouded. Remove the mote in your own eye. Try and see as truthfully as possible. To be aligned with your picture is to see truthfully. So I have to be aware how flawed this mechanism is.
We agreed that we govern our lives, our decision-making on balance of probability.
Yeah.
When I ask you the question, are the words that you're speaking are words that you're choosing?
It feels
In other words,
that way.
Right, which means on balance of probability, that is the more likely concept.
No, because guess
that
what?
But Tony.
No, it doesn't.
With all due respect, Tony, often the first thing that comes out of our mouth in relation to a particular question is what we truly believe, especially when we don't give ourselves too much time to analyze the question. So, for example, when somebody says, do you love your wife? And a person says, yeah, I love my wife. Generally, it probably...
You're a romantic.
I am a romantic.
I like romantics.
Right.
I like romantics.
Generally, if a person then says, oh, do I love my wife? Now, that could mean that perhaps this person doesn't love their wife.
I know.
Now, when I said to you, Tony, the words that you're speaking, are you choosing? In other words, there's choice. You're consciously choosing to construct those words.
It feels that.
To mean or conform with your beliefs and your argument. You said it feels that way. So what Imran is saying to you is, don't block that feeling. Take that one step further.
I love that you're a romantic. I wouldn't want to get that out of you. I think it's great, and I'm a romantic too, believe it or not. I think it's worth fighting for being a romantic.
I wouldn't doubt that, Tony. You seem like a very nice guy.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So, here's the problem with the counter-argument to what you were saying. And you're right, the unconscious mind will often speak before the conscious mind is interrupted. Okay, that's very Freudian. However, here's something else I know about my instincts. My instincts are that the world is flat. Okay? Definitely. If you ask me, if you just say to me, Tony, stop hypothesizing about all of this cosmology and round planet stuff. Just look around you. What is your instinct? Is the world flat? And the answer is, of course it's flat. My gut screams that the world is flat. I've had to learn the lesson that no matter how hard my gut can scream something, when it doesn't sync up with the epistemic hierarchy and synthesize, probably I shouldn't just settle into
complacency. To be fair,
complacency.
you missed the point, Tony.
Go on.
Because if I said to you, what shape is the Earth? And you said, without thinking, you said the world is flat.
Yeah.
You know what I would gather from that?
What?
Tony thinks the world is flat.
Yeah.
Right? When I said to you, are the words that you're speaking words that you've chosen? You said it seems that way.
Yes.
Which means that Tony believes that he has a choice.
No. Because it would seem that way even in a deterministic situation where I wouldn't have a choice.
So what I would suggest then...
Sorry, I'm dragging you guys way off.
I just wanted to just make two things.
It's probably my fault.
Where would you like... You probably want to wrap... I don't know. How do you feel? What would you... Sorry, I feel you've been really, really kind in giving me this amount of space and indulging my thinking
Tony.
this
It's not
much.
about being kind. It's about being fair.
I don't... What can I give you back?
We don't need anything.
We don't need anything, Tony. And to be honest,
your
we're not
company's
showing
been
you.
more than enough.
We're not showing you anything that is exceptional or exceeding what our religion tells us to do in the first place.
Well, you're far less
Which is to have
pedantic
courtesy,
and confrontational than many people.
We have courtesy, and we have respect for one another.
Yeah.
Even if we disagree with each other's views, we're not permitted as Muslims to behave in a derogatory manner, in an ill-mannered manner, because the very concept of character in Islam is very important. And how we deal with one another, despite even religious differences, is actually very, very important in Islam. And so for us not to show you, it's not about favor, it's about courtesy and about being fair. And we have to give you an opportunity to explain what you believe. And that's just being fair, and that's what our religion tells us to do. But my point to you, and Tony, I think the point that Imran was making is, fundamentally, you are on this planet. You believe that you exist.
Mm-hmm.
You believe that this world exists. The question is, have you asked the question, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
What's my purpose of life?
Yes.
Yes? And the answer to that, if one follows a logical and a rational thought method, is that who is best to answer that question in a form that is absolute, even though my interpretation of that message might not be an absolute. Who is best? Is it the community? Is it the people? Is it me, myself? Or does there have to be something outside of this universe that is all-knowing, that has perfect knowledge and perfect guidance? Now, what I would say, Tony, is this. I think rationally we would have to accept that if we deny the existence of God, then everything else fundamentally becomes meaningless through logic or reason, even though we might arbitrarily give it value. So a child, for example, being killed is an evil thing. Okay? A stone being smashed might not be an evil thing. But from a purely materialistic concept, you would struggle, other than arbitrary and what feelings are, to differentiate the two set of atoms being rearranged. It would always be arbitrary, and it would always be consensus, and it would always go upon feelings. But you would never be able to have certainty or surety of the disparity between the two. And that can only be explained by an all-knowing, perfectly knowledgeable being that tells you that the stone is unimportant to smash it, but the baby is very important. And who assesses that? Who attributes what value to that? The Creator. I can say, well, emotionally, I feel very upset when I see that. That's not an absolute, because somebody else might actually gain not benefit, but a pleasure from doing such a thing. So that's what we're trying to say to you now.
I don't know how to put this.
Now the question
you
that
do
I
know
asked
that you do know that what you're discussing now. I've already been grappling with this for about 40 years.
Well, don't grapple.
No, you need to grapple with it.
Just turn to God,
Okay,
and all your grappling will end.
I think grappling. That's why it's called jihad, isn't it? It's supposed to be a struggle.
Jihad is not supposed to be an endless grappling of understanding or accepting the truth.
No, because I'm aiming for, I want, like you want, absolute morality. I'm hoping it's in there to be found. Okay? I understand why you're saying that the only possible framework for there being moral absolutes is if there's an outside creator. But I think it's just a bit more nuanced than that. If there is an outside creator as you envisage him, then yes, we definitely have absolute morality. So we concur on that. However, I think if there is a creator in a slightly less literal sense, I think that can still create a platform for absolute morality. So the question is, how clearly defined does this God have to be before we can still have an absolute morality?
Tony, before you can answer any of those questions, you've got to be able to think.
Yeah.
So you're not there, though.
How do you mean?
You're not sure if you can think.
No, we've already agreed we're playing probability, so we're not sure.
No,
we know that.
Well, you said Freudian slip, and Freudian slip normally means what's on your mind comes out on your tongue.
Yeah, but I wouldn't use that as an absolute
I know you wouldn't.
reality
I know,
in
but
every
Tony, now you're going to
situation.
throw that under the bus. But what I'm saying is, Tony, what you said, if it were a Freudian slip, was what was actually in your mind and what you actually believed was what you uttered without overtly analysing it.
I hope that you're right. Look, we're up for Fitrah. When God, with regard to moral absolutes, if there's a God, then consider there are two ways that he might instill his moral absolutes. He might instill them externally as the deity who just dictates things from afar, or he might encode them within the default laws of nature he creates, because whether you're a theist or an atheist, you do believe there are default laws of nature. Yeah?
Could there be both?
Yeah, there could. Can we agree on what I just said? Do we agree that whether you're an atheist...
One is an internal concept that's been given, and then the other one is an external guidance or a guidance that accompanies that. Could there be both?
Damn, I'm not getting it. Sorry. Go on.
So you said that there could be either an internal fitrah that's just been instilled in you, or there could be external guidance to confirm those things.
Not quite saying that.
Sorry,
You're right. You're right. I get
so
why
my question to you would be: could there be both?
Yeah, I'm saying they could sync up. In other words,
and what investigation have you done?
Let's use a different one. Let's use
No,
the laws of...
let's not.
No. It's a metaphor. It'll get us there.
No. Before we do that, what investigation have you done to figure out if both exist? I.e., the fitrah.
I've scanned I was scanning as hard as I can for self-consistency.
Have you looked at the Quran?
Yeah, I've started reading it.
You've started reading it. It's fantastic.
And also, I'm praying. Which is annoying some Muslims.
I've heard that you started praying outside.
Well, I've done other kinds of prayer as well, and I kind of feel like I'm trying to practice what you preach, because I think prayer is intrinsically a good thing, and you guys understand that, and it is. It will keep your vision truthful, because it will force you to confront a certain level of humility, which is appropriate to seeing the world accurately and truthfully in accordance with your fitrah.
Everything you're doing and you're saying, actually, internally to you, should be confirming the existence of a creator. Because you're praying. Now, praying to who? Who are you praying to?
But you have to be able to think.
Actually, fundamentally, I've cut it off. But Imran's fundamental foundational question is: if you are not sure whether you're even thinking,
how can you investigate?
But I still have to make choices.
But
no matter what.
How can you make a choice then?
Well, are you making? You're not
compelled. It's not.
No, but you're not making a choice if you're not thinking.
But you're compelled. You're right.
It's not.
There's no choice.
It's not a contingent thing. I am compelled inevitably to make choices. Those choices inevitably have consequences. Therefore, I have to make them as best as I can.
But you can't
on
make
a scale
choices,
of probability. I have to.
You can't make them. They're inevitable.
No.
You can't even think.
You're playing deterministic irony with me. I understand.
But the point I'm making,
whatever happens, I'm going to experience that I have to make choices. Yes, they may be deterministic or not. Actually, the point is mute. From a pragmatic point of view, I inevitably experience I make choices.
Yes.
I inevitably experience I have to grapple with that. I'm not going to sit here and over-intellectualize determinism.
Now, the point I was making is, in your epistemic hierarchy, I said it's sat in a field of thinking and logic. If you don't have the thinking and logic, even though I think, therefore I am, or I feel that it goes out the window, everything else will fall away. And you're putting yourself in the position where you're taking away the ability to think from yourself, but still trying to say, I need to investigate and rationalize and come to a reasonable conclusion. Yes. Now, for me, that's contradictory. Because unless you can think, you can't conclude.
I'm not aware that I've said I'm not thinking. Okay? I'm open to the possibility.
You said you're not sure.
I know I'm not sure, but we've agreed that not being sure is okay, haven't we? And now you seem to be holding it against me.
No.
We've agreed we're doing things on probabilities, which means we're not sure.
The point is, Tony,
I don't think we said that.
Tony,
so it's probably worth...
the point is that you said that, in effect, it appears to you that you are thinking.
Yeah.
So that's the most rational concept for you, that you do believe that you do have control of your thought patterns and that you think.
I think it highly likely, but I know I can't trust my gut to the 100% degree.
There's no such 100%. On balance of probability.
Good. Thank you. There's no 100%.
On balance of probability, it's far more likely that you believe that you can think about things and you can rationalize them.
Even better, it may be academically, because pragmatically I always experience that I think.
So now we've moved on. Well, the conversation is probably about a 2-hour conversation. So we've at least moved on. Let's sort of conclude the conversation. But now Tony accepts that most probable thing is that he does think and that he can evaluate.
Hang on. I never
said
you didn't say that. I never said I didn't think.
So maybe we haven't moved on the conversation.
I'm just saying it is still a point of conjecture as to what do I attribute. I have a sensation of thinking, yes?
Is it negligible?
And there are different theories as to
Tony,
what that may manifest.
Do you work?
Sometimes.
Okay. Why do you work?
Necessity, you need money.
Money? Okay. And what does that money do for you?
It enables you to survive and function.
Okay. Is that a process that you've established in absence of you deliberately causing that or going through that, i.e. thinking that I need to go to work because I need money? Or is that just an automatic domino effect that's fallen and you're just compelled to go to work?
I don't know. If it's a deterministic universe,
do you
it's
feel
the
like
latter.
you're compelled to go to work?
Wow. Now you're asking deterministic.
Do you feel compelled to talk to us?
Oh, no, hang on. It would be a choice.
So you made a choice?
but I might have the illusion of choice. You know where we're at. None of us know if the choices we're making are illusionary or not. To an extent, it's academic and we can move on, because pragmatically and morally, we have to make choices. We have to try and do the best that we can, and we all agree on that. Yeah. So we don't need to disagree on that point.
Tony, do you appreciate?
So there is a.
I will
just
try
one very quick point, and I'll let Imran come in. Do you appreciate if one were to operate one's life according to those principles, you lose all sense of reality?
Which principle?
The principle of even doubting whether what you're thinking is through your own rationality or choice.
No, not at all.
Do you believe that all because if you can't think, that has consequences on everything?
Why are you putting me into? Sorry, no offense.
No, because
you're putting me into a corner where you seem to. I'm not suggesting I don't.
Because I tell you why. Everything that's meaningful in your life, the love for your child, the love for your wife, the love for your mother, all of that becomes completely irrelevant. You know why? Because you can't think. You're forced to love your wife.
But why am I defending the argument that I don't think? I never said that.
So do you believe that you do think?
I believe that I experience thinking, therefore I think.
But do you believe that that is forced upon you, or it's a choice that you make?
I don't know. I think the odds are. So
that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think the odds are.
Let me
tell you what I think the odds are. Okay. I think, and I'm still hopeful, the odds are that I do have free will. Okay. I'm hopeful I have free will.
I think it's the only
and about 50%, despite Sam Harris's arguments. But what I can't do is ignore that I am definitely contained and constrained by deterministic forces to a very fair extent. However, so it's a bit like a river. I think I'm carried by the current of a river, and I can't get off the river, but what I can do is maneuver the raft. I have some wiggle room to make certain choices within the deterministic current. Therefore, I still have free will and choices and moral agency, and that's consistent with your thinking.
The problem with someone like Sam Harris's position is it puts all of his intellectualizing and great grand theories and all of this sort of, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse thinking, just throws it out of the window, a baby with the bathwater, because he can't think. If Sam Harris is saying that our free will and thought ability to think is an illusion, then what he's saying is that the reason he thinks this, or the reason he's come to this conclusion, is because he had no other choice.
Yes.
So what goes out of the window with this position is truth, because you can never arrive at truth. You can only arrive at where the river is taking you. Now, if we are in search of truth, and we're in search of what our purpose is here and how we got here,
we are.
And our field in which our epistemic hierarchy is sitting is thought and logic, then you can't take away the thought and logic by saying that I may just be in a deterministic...
But if we're accepting that the principal axiom is self-consistency, Sam Harris is presenting a model which is very strong in self-consistency. Although it's abhorrent to me, I respect his intent. Sure. I think the guy is aiming for truth.
But he doesn't have intent, because he can't think.
No, you still have intent.
You can't think.
No,
you can't have intent.
Okay, then you've misconstrued Harris. Harris is in a very strange position. I mean, I've read his book, and he's presenting...
The 60-book-page pamphlet, the Free Will book.
No, I've read The Moral Landscape.
Okay,
which is... In fact, I've got it with me with notes.
Okay, wow.
We can go there if you wish, right? Now, I'm a fan of Sam Harris because I'm a fan of people based on their intent. I don't expect them to always get it right. I don't expect to always agree with them.
What's his intent?
I think Sam Harris is doing his reasonable best to aim for truth. And I think he's being diligent to certain core principles. And therefore, just because he gets it right or gets it wrong, that to me is secondary. He's a voice to respect and listen to.
What are his core principles?
His core principles, I think, are being true to a principle, believing he lives in a self-consistent universe and trying to round that data and simultaneously care about moral absolutes. I think he passionately cares about moral absolutes in a way you guys do. And although you're coming at it from different directions, you share a common passion in that sense. And I share that passion as well, because we are not blank slates.
So one of the problems with his approach is everything about you, your thoughts, your decisions, everything that you make, and your intent is a conscious process. It's all determined. There's no way for you to come outside of that. It cannot be any other way. Therefore, the person who is a murderer or who is whatever, they were inevitably led to this place. The same then applies to him. The fact that he's thinking these things it also means that he had no other choice.
Yeah, no,
but to
you're
be
right.
in
It's
that
very
place.
paradoxical.
And the reasons he applies that is, he says in his own book, he says is that he's trying to fit that onto the scientific model.
Yeah.
And science says that there is only the physical world. There's nothing outside of this.
No, hang on. Harris is absolutely not Harris's
I know
position.
he disagreed with it.
No, Harris's position is clearly not that the only
I
thing is
understand.
material.
I understand that. But
We all agree on qualia, yeah?
I understand.
Harris says the primary thing, he agrees with that on the epistemic hierarchy. Harris agrees that I am is the primary thing you know, and that is not material, it transcends material.
Great, I understand that. But the model that he's trying to fit this free will, deterministic world view on, is the scientific model. Because if you read this book, he talks about chemicals and genes and environment, and he doesn't talk about anything outside of this. And even he goes to the point of saying that if you had a murderer or a psychopath's soul, then you would be a psychopath. So he believes even the metaphysical is determined.
Yeah.
So he doesn't.
He's a hard determinant.
Completely, and that's the problem now. And what's the problem is, he can't escape whatever he's determined to do. So whatever conclusions he's going to make are going to be predetermined. He can't make any other conclusion.
I'm not. You're singing to the preaching to the converted.
So the problem
I'm
with
not
this-
a hard determinism. All I'm saying is, I can't, in good faith, discount the integrity of his thinking.
No. So this is what I'm saying to you.
That's
So
all.
the point that I'm
You
making
seem to
is
have gone, it must be
No,
wrong
no.
because it feels bad.
No.
I'm going,
We're
it
not saying
feels
that.
bad, but it might be true.
No, we're not saying that.
So what I'm saying about him is that he can't make any other conclusion because of his own worldview. And what goes out of the window when you have that worldview is truth. You can't access that because you have no way to control your
Define
thoughts.
truth.
So coming to any conclusion about anything, let's just make it very, very, very vague. Coming to any conclusion about anything, you cannot, because you can't even follow a thought process, because that's determined for you. So you being in the position that you are in Sam Harris's worldview, you couldn't have been in any other way. Even to the point of you're wearing the clothes that you were predetermined to wear, because you couldn't have made any other choice.
You seem to think I'm disagreeing with what you're saying.
No, we're
I'm
not.
not. You're
We're
pointing
not.
out the paradox of determinism.
Paradox of the Sam Harris's position that he has.
What I'm not doing at the moment is moving into the paradox of, and I may have got this wrong, but conservative Muslims, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are compatibilists, which means on the one hand you believe you live in a deterministic universe, which at the moment you're speaking against, and you simultaneously believe you have free will, which means you've added a whole level, and on this point we will start disagreeing. I don't buy compatibilism, and I'm very interested in discussing that with you guys.
Sure.
I think you can have your cake or eat it, but you cannot have both.
So this is where dualism comes in.
What do you mean, mind-brain dualism?
So the metaphysical soul is not determined by the laws of nature, and therefore can independently think and come to conclusions and allow you to make more choices, because it can override whatever neurological process.
Then you're not a hard determinist.
No.
Okay, excellent.
So,
but a lot of
what
Muslims
that
will present that
so
they
what
are.
that allows me to do, in my worldview, is to think and come to conclusions. And what I'm saying is more consistent. Even your point of view, it's more consistent to be in that position than to say, actually, ultimately, I can't think and make choices. Everything is predetermined, or I'm not sure about it. And the lack of being sure means that you have to weigh the consequences of the two different positions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not sure about whether you can you can think independently and come and follow a train of thought, then you can't arrive at any truth. You can only arrive at that which you predetermined to arrive.
Surely the truth. Well, the facts would be, if in Harris's model there are possible facts, the facts would be that you are an epiphenomenon of a neurological mechanism, which is inevitable. It is possible that's a factually accurate statement. I don't like that factually accurate statement, and I understand the paradoxical implications of it, and I'm hoping it's not the case, but I'm not willing to discount it if I'm going to be loyal to the principle of self-consistency.
So in that model, if he's arrived at that model, he couldn't have arrived at any other model.
Correct. It's paradoxical.
So that means that there's no way to determine if that's true or not. So it can never become a fact.
Okay. Given that Sam Harris physically exists, given that he has written words, they are in a book, those are facts.
Yeah.
Okay, there is clearly some truth here,
No.
because there are a bunch of facts.
No.
Yeah? And when there's
Tony, you're
where there's
missing
facts,
it.
there's truth.
You're missing it.
Actually, I don't believe that.
He absolutely. So he's writing things that he had no choice but to write. In fact, the thought process that went behind the book, he had no control over.
Why do you think I don't understand that?
No, I know
I
what you're
totally
saying,
understand that.
But I'm telling you the consequence of that belief. So therefore, the belief, for me, it makes it untenable.
I understand for you it does, and I
Okay.
totally understand why. And for me, it makes it horribly unpalatable. It's just we've reached a
You see,
slightly different emotional conclusion.
I get the
You've
impression-
reached the conclusion that it's so unpalatable, you've just got to get rid of it.
It's not about palatable or unpalatable.
It's not palatable. It's
Well,
about
it's not about
consequence.
feeling.
It's a cogent, self-consistent model that I have to give some respect to, even though I'm not embracing.
No, but
That's all I'm saying.
no. You can look. You can
And
respect.
if it's
I
in
don't, I
with-
don't know why it's cogent. Why is it
Exactly.
cogent?
because what data contradicts it, apart from
The fact that I'm thinking contradicts it.
no, because it's already explained that,
It doesn't
you'll be
explain-
an epiphenomenon of your neurology. So of
Sure.
course you experience it while thinking.
So the thing, if you've ever been a passenger in a car,
Yeah.
then you know that where the car goes and where and your perspective
Yeah.
isn't determined by the vehicle. You can look around and you can do things, whereas the driver's focusing on the road and the car's going a certain way.
Yeah.
If I'm being taken for a ride in my thoughts,
Yeah.
I would know that.
No, you think you would, but the whole hypothesis is no, you wouldn't. That's the
Okay,
point.
all right. So therefore,
You
that
would, by definition, you wouldn't understand
I
the
understand.
illusion you were under.
Okay. Now, the reason it becomes incogent or uncogent for me, whatever the correct conjugate is, the consequences of that therefore mean whoever came up with that theory
Yeah.
is themselves simply experiencing a
Yeah,
train
it's
of thought
paradoxical,
that
but
led
it
to
doesn't
them.
stop it being factually accurate train of causation.
It's contradictory because the person that's come up with the idea, if they hold to this theory,
Yeah.
is undermining the process by which they came to the idea.
No, they're just saying it was inevitable that my theorizing would align with the facts,
No,
the
no.
causal facts.
No, what they're saying is that I am a passenger in my conscious stream.
Yeah.
My conscious stream has arrived at this point, and therefore I'm expressing this conscious stream
Yeah.
as this idea of epiphenomenalism. Yeah?
Yeah.
That none of that makes it a fact. In fact, all he's saying is that I'm sitting in this raft, and the raft has taken me here. Nothing about truth seeking or arriving at truth,
But
because
again, I'm asking you to define what you mean by truth. And we said this
just
ages back.
establishing anything to be true,
What do you mean by truth? Seriously.
Reality.
anything
Okay,
about
what do you
reality,
mean by
any fact.
These are the key questions.
Okay,
Jason.
sure.
What do you mean by reality?
Okay.
and truth?
Do you believe that there is an absolute reality of our existence?
The more I think about a question like that, the more I've got to unpack how much I know about what it really
It's
means.
not about what you know.
Well,
It's about is there
in order to answer
is
it
there one
honestly.
is there one reality that's the truth and every other reality that's wrong?
I think it's more complex than that.
Okay.
I think I've got to
can you
define-
have mutually exclusive realities for the
No,
same
no,
for the
I
same
don't
event?
believe. Right, so I don't believe in the
Okay.
principle of self-consistency.
Okay.
I do believe in the principle of
So
self-consistency.
there is one reality,
the Platonic principle of non-contradiction,
right?
which
Okay,
I
that's
believe,
fine.
yeah, which
Yeah.
you guys probably believe in, so we've got common ground.
So there's one reality that is the reality.
The reality,
Regardless of whether I discover it or I don't discover it, or I come up with some different combination of other realities that I might perceive,
Mm-hmm.
nevertheless, there is one reality that's the absolute truth.
seems highly no. It's not that simple. It's just not that simple because you're using such a. I'm not saying you're crazy or off point, and I'm not trying to be nitpicking
Okay,
either.
let me put it
I'm
this
just
way.
saying it helps if you define your terms.
Okay, let me.
And in the
okay.
conversation we're having, I think there's, for example, a difference between
Okay.
facts and truth.
Okay.
Now, unless you're buying into that distinction,
No,
the conversation we have will be quite difficult.
Tony, somebody who's never seen an elephant,
Yeah.
and somebody says the reality is, absolute reality is, an elephant has 4 legs
Yeah.
and it has a trunk, and I've never seen an elephant. Okay, somebody else says it has 3 legs. Somebody else says it has 2 legs, 1
Uh-huh.
leg, no trunk, a beak.
Yeah.
Is there an absolute reality to what an elephant basically is?
Well, there's an ontological elephant fact.
Okay. And it has 4 legs,
Okay, now
unless
it
it's disabled or
now
some
it
other
manifests to the various people in your story as a phenomena, and they're reporting information anecdotally.
Right.
But fortunately, they can climb the hierarchy and empirically look at your ontological
issue.
elephant.
They haven't looked at it. That's
Okay, if they haven't
without
looked-
looking at it.
right, so they're
is
weighing
there,
up.
No,
They're weighing up.
no. Forget weighing up, Tony. Is there an absolute
But they're
reality?
giving-
Tony, look, if I don't even bother to go and investigate or try to find this elephant,
In your example,
sitting in my armchair at home, I've never seen an elephant. I have 10 different people who say 10 different
Yeah,
things
I
about
get
the
it.
elephant.
I get it. So I am
And
covering
one says 4 legs and a trunk.
I'm covering it.
I'm not going to go and bother to look at David Attenborough. Say, here we have the elephant in the African jungle.
I am covering your question.
Okay.
Okay.
But is there an absolute reality to that issue? That the elephant
issue.
indeed has 4 is there an absolute reality that the elephant has 4 legs and a trunk?
See how difficult it is to quite pin down. I think my answer was actually pretty good. You presented me with a question which gave contradictory anecdotal evidence. Yes?
Right.
That was the dilemma you presented to me. My solution is, we know on the epistemic hierarchy, we can trump it, by actually checking it empirically and going and looking at the ontological elephant
But
that
you
really
missed
exists.
the
Yes?
point then.
Now, you in your analogy have said I'm not allowed to do that.
That's
yeah?
right.
Okay, so now I've just got anecdotal evidence to go
Yes.
on. Have I ever seen an elephant before?
No.
Right. So what I've got is 4 people giving me different descriptions of an animal I know nothing about
That's
beyond their
right.
description.
That's right.
Okay, now all I can do is probably ask what are the characters of
No,
those 4
forget,
people?
you missed the point. Look, I think you're missing the principle. And the principle is that there is a reality that
I've
an
said
elephant...
there's an ontological elephant.
There is a reality
Yeah.
that elephant has 4 legs and a trunk. Even if I've not seen it or proven it empirically,
Yeah,
that's the reality.
that's ontology, of course.
Okay, so the point that Imran is trying to make to you is that if you go down the route as Sam Harris does,
Yeah,
then there is no reality.
that doesn't
No,
follow.
that's not reality.
No, that doesn't follow.
It doesn't.
No, there is ontology.
Yeah, there is ontology. That's
Thank
the,
you. There is
the
ontology.
The
I'm
point
sorry,
is,
but there is.
You know, I'm so tired.
Yeah,
I've gone brain dead.
We're going to
Sorry.
stop after this.
I've actually gone brain dead. I've actually made a point. I started with the elephant,
And then you went somewhere
and I
else.
went somewhere completely else. The point that I'm trying to make to you, Tony, is that there is an absolute fact or an absolute truth that an elephant has 4 legs and a trunk.
I agree.
It's irrelevant, or
I
it's
call that a fact.
a fact. But that fact exists despite me proving it
Yeah.
or not proving
Independent of perception,
Independent of
ontological
evidence.
reality exists.
it. Right, so sorry, Imran. I don't know where I was going with that.
My
but-
job,
There you
my
go.
job is to try and see ontological
You-
reality.
I must say,
as
you've
clearly
got
as
some real
possible.
stamina,
But
Tony.
you can only do that.
I've been thinking about this stuff for so long.
So the
Okay,
only way to do that.
and I
Tony,
always feel like I'm so close to a
you are,
breakthrough.
you are very close. The only way you can. Sorry, there's something on your face. Just
Where, here?
Yeah.
If I just spat a
No,
peanut
no,
on
you haven't.
I'm
You haven't.
really
It's a
sorry.
fly. 1 second. Just do that. That's it. That's it. It's gone. It's gone. So
Sorry.
the only way you can look at any fact and try to determine its validity is to use your mind to
Yeah.
think. Now, and this is why I'm so surprised that you say that I find this determinism in terms of thought so unpalatable, but you hold on to it. I think it's something that should be completely rejected. It does not make sense.
But I've got so much precedent in my life for finding out things are true that I find profoundly unpalatable. Because
Sure.
I've encountered that again and again, and I've seen that if I want to run away from a harsh truth, it doesn't pay long-term dividends. And in fact, I think religion teaches you to confront hard truths.
So, but I think
That's a core
we're talking
principle.
about 2 different things.
Why? I'm trying to apply a principle of being as honest and truthful as possible,
Right.
even when it's unpleasant, in the faith, and I do mean faith. That if I adhere diligently to that principle, it will carry me through the dark tunnel of the apparent problems I'm seeing in front of me. Okay? I'm driving on faith here, which is
So
another reason
I think we're
I'm not
using the
an
word faith in a different way. What I would say is,
Not necessarily. I'm having faith in the process, and I'm having faith in the things that tell me I have a Fitrah to steer me through that process, and that in doing that, I will encounter much adversity
Okay,
because
you know
it's
what,
a test.
Tony, I'm going to ask you one question.
Yeah.
Let's say, for argument's sake, that I'm right, God exists.
Okay. Fine.
Let's say, for argument's sake, I'm right, the Quran is from God,
Yeah.
and that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was indeed the Prophet of Allah.
Okay.
What are you going to? What strategy are you going to apply to either accept or reject that notion?
I'm going to look at what's being said for self-consistency.
Right,
I'm going to use my gut instinct and my heart,
right,
and I'm going to use my epistemic hierarchy and try and synthesize all of that
right.
as best I can to make the most honest choice I can. And then I'm not going to assume I know a definite answer, but I'm going to keep re-inspecting it and looking for cracks, and that's the best I can do. And I think that's what my Fitrah demands.
But are you going to believe that that is being obtained through your rationality, or you're predetermined to just think that?
If I can discount determinism, because whether it's the case or not, pragmatically it makes no difference, actually. So although it's interesting to talk about determinism, in a way we can dump it, right? Because if it's deterministic, inevitably I'm going to be doing this, and if it's not deterministic, I'm going to choose. So let's ditch determinism. In terms of moral agency, I got to make choices. I want to make the best choices possible. Okay?
so if you're a moral agent,
Yeah.
then you're your decisions cannot be predetermined, because therefore that will take morality away from you.
Well, I'm saying we could let determinism go.
I agree with you. I'm agreeing with
you. Just
you.
put it back in.
And I'm just agreeing with you.
Okay. So let's determinism, not because it may not be the truth, but because it has actually zero consequential basis impact on me making the moral decisions which are important. Even though I'm not generally a consequentialist, because I'm really not. But in this particular instance, I might just ditch it.
So I agree with you, but maybe for different reasons. So we would take. This is what the point I was making. The determinism is not tenable, because it will take away from you things like morality and the ability to make choices and thinking through a process.
Yeah.
And therefore, we do that all the time. And if I believe I'm accountable for what I'm doing, either to society or to the creator, then I need to be a moral agent. Determinism takes away your moral agency, particularly in the Sam Harris model.
So we're all agreeing that.
So we're
all agreeing
we can think.
We could simplify our discussion by letting go of determinism for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. We all agree.
No, I don't think we
think.
should.